Hello, everybody. 411 Business here. JC Coffee with Egypt, and we have the fight for mental health. Egypt, tell us about you, about the fight for mental health. Just take it away.
Well, JC, I just want to say it's an honor to be here with you. Thank you for having me. You've been a longtime supporter of everything we've been doing. And so it just makes perfect sense to be here with you today and support. Bottom line, just for those of you or for your audience that may not understand what mental health is and why we fight for mental health, we understand some people may think that mental health is mental illness. In essence, mental health is your barometer. It decides or is your compass, if that makes sense, on where you're at. And a lot of times, you have that stigma where no one wants to be deemed quote unquote crazy or, mentally unstable. You have a lot of times people will, when they're speaking negatively, they'll use specific terms or, they'll name call or make derogatory comments like, are you stupid? Are you slow? Things of this nature. And there's also different misconceptions where maybe a person is having a breakdown or they are having a moment or an issue. And, that can be compared to someone who may have more harsher diagnosis like a schizophrenia or, you have so many different disorders. But the bottom line is we fight so that you learn to protect your mind, protect your brain. Substance abuse can be a cause of poor mental health. Poor diet and nutrition can be a cause of poor mental health. Abuse triggers traumas. Maybe someone have a lack of physical health. That can also play a part. So you have things that happen to men, women, children, seniors, adults, people of all backgrounds could at any time experience a trauma or a situation where at that point maybe their mental capacity is affected. And so we understand first responders, veterans, athletes, moms and dads, people of all backgrounds, just workers, business owners, they can all deal with the heavy level of trauma. And when we look at the suicide rates and things of this nature, the violence, these are all signs that mental health is deteriorating in certain parts of society. And a lot of times what we found is the outlets are either there in a very basic or unreliable fashion, or they just don't have the right resources at all. And then even if the resources are available and maybe they are suitable for their conditions, no, the normal individual, or when I say normal, the average individual may not want to be deemed as quote unquote, again, crazy, that term that people put on you if they find out, oh, you're seeing a therapist or you're seeing a medical professional. So what I did is I saw from my background of working with the best of the best in combat sports, celebrities, influencers, etc., of all backgrounds, retired, active, your future stars. What I saw is certain behaviors that was consistent on the negative side, as far as maybe how they were treating people, or the self sabotage, or maybe they were the physical effects. Maybe they're repeating themselves all the time, or they're forgetting things that really probably shouldn't forget. And there was just a number of factors that caused me, even though I had a psych major when I was in the university, I never quite understood mental health. I did not necessarily know what that was, even though I studied in the university. I studied sociology, studied psychology, and different areas. And so what I had to do is something just was odd about the fact that so many different individuals were displaying, even though they may display it differently, but I was seeing a lot of common denominators. So that caused me to really look into what is mental health. When I came across that term, I said, and then I started studying, and it all started to make sense. But you have your behavioral health, you have substance abuse, and you have all the different factors. And so I really started to research heavily. And then I started picking up the phone. I just started making call after call after call, speaking to different providers, speaking to different experts. And then, they would invite me to come check out their facilities or come check out their clinics. And so I was traveling around the country and traveling around the world in order to see exactly what they were doing. And I said, treat me like a guinea pig. I want to know what you would do if I was, an individual that's struggling. And what I found, and so this fight for mental health developed in layers, because I started off with a lot of curiosity, and when I was going to these clinics, they were very quick to work with me because I was already working with you know notable individuals. And the work that we're doing it's the cool, it's the fun stuff. They see the TV, the YouTube, the social media. So of course they were willing to speak to me in a very rapid fashion because of that. But what I found is their clinics were not quite up to par with the problem and the many problems I was seeing. And then the healthcare system, they were explaining to me about billing codes and how they have to bill for certain things, and um,
Absolutely.
understanding what it takes for them as a provider to be able to keep the lights on so that they can support their clients. But then I would see some clinics that I didn't see that there was a sense of urgency for their clients or patients to recover very fast, because if they don't have their patients, then they don't have a bottom line. And then if they don't have the revenue, then it's hard to keep a staff, and then their staff gets burned out. And so I'm seeing all these different areas of concern. And then I looked deeper, and so there's a misconception at time when people say the word politics. We don't get involved in politics. We don't care what political side you're on. We want you to have help. But there is legislation, and I looked into legislation and how government, what their role is in the recovery, whether it's someone transitioning from active duty, whether they've seen combat or not, they still see traumatic activity. And then you also have first responders. Maybe they're on the SWAT team, or maybe they're in law enforcement, or maybe they're EMT or medical personnel. They see people, their bodies are mangled, or they see infants that are damaged severely and hurt. They see a lot of deaths and killings, and I mean they come across a lot of gory things. And so a lot of times maybe the spouse at home, and I spend a lot of time learning from them. They have spouses or partners at home that don't quite understand what they're seeing for 13, 14 hours a day. And so they don't have the outlet to express themselves. And then if they do, they feel like they may lose a promotion, or maybe they may get sat down for a little bit. So all of this contributes to our society. And on the government side of things, they obviously, with the tax revenue that goes back to our government, and the amount of capability on the resource level, financially and economically, our government has the most. And so I decided to start learning and finding out how our government system works. That on its own, when you look at learning healthcare and insurance, it's ridiculous. Learning how medical providers operate on a daily basis, it's ridiculous. Learning more about the problem itself, I mean, it's a very complex situation, and it's not like a one size fits all. Many people have their own situation, so you have to learn about that. You have to learn about athletes and how it's affecting them, whether it's head trauma or just even previous traumas that they experienced, before they got into sports or while they're an entertainer, a celebrity, or influencer, etc. You have to learn about that. And then the government side, it's such a tricky situation, as far as all the different functions, and we have a very complex democracy. So learning legislation, and at this point, we're now writing a bill. It took progress to learn this, and then at the end of the day, how do you fund all this? Because see, one thing about us that's different is we don't beg for donations, we don't beg for contributions and things of this nature. And so most of these organizations that are out there, and I don't have anyone that I'm going to speak poorly about, but in general, you have so many of them that claim to care, or they claim to they see the need and they're going to address it, but in reality, you're just paying for expensive employment, and they have staff that's taking up a majority of the funds, so that such a small percentage ever even makes it to the individuals who need it. So what I decided, and what my team agreed with, is we weren't never, and we have never been that. It is more difficult to keep the lights on. I self-funded all of this from the very beginning. I had no sponsors, no investors, no partners, nothing that we shouldn't even be where we're at, based on the outlook of things, the financials. There's no way. But this is why I'm spiritual. I mean, the success we've had. I mean, when I introduced this, the issues, and I was very clear. I spoke to the TV networks. I spoke to all your different stars and athletes. I spoke to businesses and organizations. I went to churches. I went to religious institutions. I literally went to every sector that you can imagine. And many times at the beginning, they told me, Egypt sounds great, but they don't quite get it, or come to us after you've had all your progress. So I had to believe, and I believe then, and what I've seen. I told our team that we were going to be dealing with the president of the United States, and I said all these different things. We recorded the call. We recorded the calls, our initial calls, and all of the goals that I said we would do from the very beginning. We've not only done that, but we've gone past and beyond. And there's certain things you can't really teach. Certain things, I mean, when it comes to the names, we have such a dynamic reach, but a lot of that, I understood how to unite and bring people together, and how to take people that normally had years of chaos against each other, not just on a competitive level, but even in their social and in their associations. They wanted nothing to do with each other. And to be able to get them all in a room, to be able to bring them under one umbrella, I mean, only the creator could have given me the insight, the wisdom, and the patience to be able to handle these things. And there's times on a human level, when I had the media and I was going to the media and I said, hey, we need to get you guys involved. And they literally would tell me, this doesn't generate revenue for us. We're not really interested in the subject. It makes you want to get on a more volatile level with them, then when you're talking to different individuals, and they see the hard work that we do, and they try to infiltrate and try to take what we're doing and exploit it for something completely else. I mean, yes, on the human side, it can definitely affect you if you allow that to sink in. So when we talk about fighting for mental health, I have to also be the example. So if I'm not behaving in a way that is is a great example to all,
Yes.
then
Yes.
then it's an issue, and it really stops the work. So there was times when, even though people might have attacked me or attacked my character, tried to attack our company, whatever their goals or agendas were on the negative, I couldn't respond like I wanted to as a human normally from before. And that on its own is when you talk about mental health, I mean, you have to really be grounded and balanced, because You have to be more politically correct when you say things and do things. You can't take sides, even if you see something that is very clear on your end. You can't get too involved at times. You have to learn, the time and place, and when is the time to speak, when is it time to shut your mouth. And this has been a constant journey. I mean, I believe I embraced humility, and I'm continuing on this journey forever, because when you have ego, that gets in your way. You know,
Absolutely.
so
I
I'm
really
sorry.
feel I really feel like what you were just talking about really is, to put it in two words, it's emotional intelligence.
Yes, ma'am.
The ability to be able to come in and be unmoved. Not that you're not bothered, not that you don't feel anything, but the ability to compartmentalize, because we're human, right? And we're all going to feel whether we block it out or not. It's just some people learn the ability to be able to put it into a compartment. And what by a compartment, I mean that everything is important in its own being. But when you put it into a compartment, you can deal with it in a different way versus being provoked and moved and emotionally charged. As we learn, because as we talk, I've been in the mental health space for many, many years. Having a child at 17 that was diagnosed bipolar at 18 months, and every 3 years, them retesting. One of the biggest things that I think is so powerful is when we want to help, we can when you learn how to remove the emotion, you look at logic, and that way we can stay focused, because it's not just one person. We're not
Yeah.
here for one person. We're not here for self. We're here to help everybody. We're here to be a source, a voice, a safe space. Because when you talk about mental health, for me, it's safety.
Yes.
And when you provide a safe space for somebody, that gives them a foundation. And that's what I love about with you, and that's with your foundation and what you're doing, and how even on every Friday we're on a call, and you include people, and it doesn't matter how big you are. And you might be with the president of the United States this minute, and then you might be with a homeless person the next. But I love how your foundation is so profound, because you're so open minded, and you honestly, truthfully live by through the example. You're not just giving talk, you're not just lip singing and giving service. You're actually every day showing up and working towards this fight for mental health.
I appreciate you having the understanding that, obviously you have different standards. So that's one thing that will help many people with that stress and anxiety, is that you have to respect part of our stress as people is we want things without meeting the standard, and having the humility to go to whoever represents that standard. And so that's what I did, and I continue to do. It never stops. It's like, when I see that there's someone who's great, and they are talented but also disciplined in how they approach their business, and or their industry, or whatever it is that they're great at, I have the humility to find out where that standard comes from, and understand and meet them with my standard. Because a lot of times we want opportunities, and there's people that will say, oh, I could have done this, I could have been that, I could have had this opportunity or not. But what they're missing is you possibly didn't, as an individual, may not have met the standard. Because if you met the standard, then you would have for sure taken advantage of the opportunity, but had the humility to say that this is an opportunity. So I look at this as, when I'm with world leaders of any kind, or any members of government, I had to learn the standard. So Now I have friends that are governors and senators and Congress and beyond. But it's because I took the time on my own and learned their standard. And I asked and I looked for people who met that standard along the way and continue to, and ask questions, and I really like dive in. So when they show me something, it doesn't just stop there. I go in and I learn more. And then I'll find something else. And then now when I'm speaking to people, I'm able to activate more opportunities with them and understand what they're all about more, because okay, I understand the standard. And now I understand how this connects, what role they're playing, and what role all of this connects to them. And so when you're dealing with someone who is starting a business but has potential, the number one thing, or you have the youth, a lot of times, like, we say things that are negative about the youth. Oh, what they don't know, what they don't do, what they can't do, how disrespectful they are, whatever may be the case. Oh, when in my time you guys wouldn't have made it, or whatever. These things happen. And so a lot of times we don't understand that the youth have a standard. So when you're talking to them, you can't just go and speak to them and expect them to hear you. So when they see the work that I do and they see the work that we do, that they automatically understand, they're very intelligent and understand, okay, he meets the standards. So now I have their full attention. Same thing goes if I'm talking to a person in the military. I understand the standard. If it's law enforcement, whoever it is, I understand and get to know their standard. And even though I may ask questions and learn, so now I'm learning even more, I get the authenticity from them, because number one, I'm not talking to them in a certain tone, or approaching them in a way as, okay, I'm here, you're down here. This is just how. No, you have to meet them with the standards. Now, I may not bring myself down in my behavior. Like if I'm dealing with someone homeless, I'm not going to drink and smoke with them. You know, I'm not going to hang out with them in the manner that maybe someone else would. But at the same time, I can learn and I can ask questions. How did you get into this position? Because see, when you're communicating with them, there's a lot that you can do to eliminate their trust. So when I'm speaking and I'm really wanting to know, and they're educating me, you have to listen and you have to shut your mouth. You can't come to them and, well, I do this and I this. No, you have to eliminate those things and then hear them for where they're at and meet them right there again, but show them the standard. So this is what has guided me and helped me very much. So you mentioned our prayer and leadership calls. There's so many religious organizations. They always want you to donate. They always want you to pay them some kind of money, and then those people may or may not be getting the most out of even being involved. With us, what we understand and overstand is that spirituality is also another part that you cannot miss when you're talking about mental health. I mean, I don't see that an atheist can be as effective in understanding the mind, because you're putting limits on something that has no limits. Our mind has no limits. Our universe has no limits. People's abilities has no limits. So when you try to limit, um, the world and the universe on your own with your own mind, you already can't connect with everything and everybody. Everything connects. And so what we do each week is I meet with our leaders from all different sectors. Yes, sometimes we have our athletes and our influencers on there too, but we have leaders from government, leaders from the military, leaders from businesses, leaders in all sectors, whether it's real estate, healthcare. We have doctors on the call, and we do have ministers. The ministers even come because they're learning on such a different level. I mean, you can take them to seminary school and they could learn doctrine and theology, but that doesn't connect them with a person who's struggling, let alone a person who's successful and they have a certain mind frame about things. So what we do is each week, I don't care if I'm at a mega show, whatever event, whatever I'm involved in, I I have always taken and will always take that time and give it to prayer and leadership. And what has happened is because of that, I've grown tremendously and I continue to grow. I mean, it helps me in so many different aspects. Besides, I don't look to get clients or get support. And so when you do things out of authenticity and with the right spirit, people respond differently. Now, maybe they will decide when they do have an opportunity, hey, let's go to Egypt and let's see how we can work out a business situation, or hey, let's support what he's doing because he's been supporting us all this time without asking us to do anything financially or economic. I have never once, we have group chats, we have social media, we're online, we have our website. In no way can anyone say that even one time I've come to them and said, I need you to donate. I don't send out
Nope.
blasts on text message say, hey, I need you to contribute here. We find a way to get it done. So this is why people kind of marvel. How are you doing these things? How have you been able to sustain all this time? How do you operate day to day? Well, the bottom line is when you are in a limitless world, like with our creator, his people never worried about how they were going to eat, how they were going to live, how they were going to feed their families, how they were going to feed other families. Because when you're not thinking of me, what I want, what I need, what I deserve, someone owes me this or that, when you don't think and operate in that fashion, I have such an amazing world to experience every day. And so I'll just end with that. I was just very excited when you brought up our prayer and leadership. I'm big
Well,
on that.
no, I love it because in my world, right? And I say that, as just because in my world, right? My world, I live a different way. And in my world, I have an abundance. I don't lack anything. And it doesn't matter if I have $1 billion in the bank or a dollar, because the way that I function and the energy and the frequency and the way that I give and receive from people, I don't have a lack of anything. I never have been taught lack. I've never been taught limits.
Mhm.
I've always been taught that when you give, it will be taken care of. When you lose yourself in the service of others, you will be cared for. Now, that doesn't mean you get to go out and live recklessly and then just say, oh, well, I did 10 good deeds, so and so's got that taken care of. No, you're mindful, being mindful. But I love what you said because it is true. When you do what you need to do, right? When you give and give, life is guaranteed. It's a circle. It is a circle no matter what. And I tell people that all the time because, when someone comes to me with a question of should I or shouldn't I, or what do you think? My simplest answer is just draw a circle. And if you would want to get to receive that, then do it. But if you would not want to be on the receiving end of that, then I would caution you to think about it and maybe position it in a different way, because there's 1,000 ways to do anything, right?
Yeah.
It's just, what is your outcome? What are you trying to accomplish? And so I love it because I love coming to your meetings. I love talking to you. I love seeing all the work you're doing. I love being involved. It's just so profound. So I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to get him on here, because you have so many things that you're doing and so many people that you're helping. And we need that. We need positivity. People need to hear that, and that they matter. They need to know that they're important and that there are people out here who care and there are resources. Because I'll tell you, recently I was in a situation where I was looking for some resources and I called over 100 nonprofits, and every last one of them said the exact same thing. Oh, I'm sorry, we don't have any resources. I'm sorry, we don't have any
Mhm.
resources. It's like I started pulling up and doing data and doing research on how much money in this county was donated and in this state, and the billions of dollars that are donated to nonprofits yearly.
Mhm.
What? Where's the money? And where's the people that are being helped, instead of having so many organizations that the founder, or you can't say founder because it's a nonprofit, but their board and their, the people running the organization are living high on the hog, but there's no resources for the people to be helped. And that is a major problem.
Well, the structure and the purpose is really what determines how they're going to operate in that scenario anyway. I mean, the bottom line is I didn't have an idea on how to not pay taxes, or it wasn't a way to try to, not take care of responsibilities. It wasn't a way to try to scheme and make some quick cash. Actually, I listened to the creator, and he showed me I could go down two paths. The one that I'm going down, where I'll be extremely successful, but I'll be extremely isolated and lonely, and have almost no impact. And then you have the other road, where it's going to be a harder road, but you're going to be wealthy beyond your dreams, because you're in a more sustainable fashion, and it's something that's going to live past you. And so I followed that path. It was definitely, and it has always and will always be, a much harder road necessarily, because it's not, some people, oh, I'm just, as long as I'm making money, as long, I mean, there's always going to be currency exchange, on the earth. I mean, this is what has all, if that's all you're living for, that's like the peak of your day. I mean, yes, there's a part where obviously we have to keep the lights on. Clearly, I'm aware of that. But when you are, that is your only method of, or motivation and inspiration, to your day, or to any actions you take, well, you'll find yourself around some very dark individuals, or very dark paths. There are people that will make some very psychotic and demonic decisions for revenue. This is why you have drugs. This is why you have violence. This is why you have, some gangs or mafias and cartels that's destroying communities. This is why you have, peoples that are just, breaking into homes, or, robbing banks, stealing from people's retirements and investments. I mean, the list goes on, and it's all because that person has a love for money. Some people, have saved up their whole lives also, that someone can come and scheme their way and take it all from them. You look at the lottery winners, majority of them either end up dead or broke right away. So if the wealth, or getting rich, or just making money was, it was what it was, as far as like it's fulfilling, then a lot of times you wouldn't see people that are wealthy and then high all the time, or they're rich and they're drunk all day, every day, having substance abuse issues. So these things, it's like, I can't exactly explain to people why my life is more fulfilling without them actually doing it too. Like, if you're just, like you mentioned, like if you're just trying to count up a few good deeds, and you're just trying to like stack them up, like a deck of cards. I mean, I don't even think about what I did yesterday. I don't even like look for trophies. I mean, I'm sitting here. I have an award. Well, I'm sorry, not an award, but a letter written to me from the president on my desk. I mean, that's cool. I haven't framed it. I mean, I do need to frame my background and make it
Come
look
on
more
now.
pretty, you
You
know.
gotta put that up.
Yeah, but to be honest, I mean, because the work never stops, I expect I'll probably get several letters,
Absolutely.
by the time,
Absolutely.
like
I
I
think
didn't.
it's called what I sorry to interrupt you, dear. I think
No,
it's a
absolutely.
lot for me, it's the love effect. It is, and what I mean by the love effect is when you are caring and you're kind and you're tender to somebody, right? And you invest, sometimes it's a second, sometimes it's a minute, when you care about someone, it is contagious. When you smile at someone, it's contagious. People want it, they desire it, they're in shock because we don't know. A lot of people never have been given that. We take for granted the love, the tenderness, the compassion that we have been shown in our life, whether it was through our parents or people who we got it from, however we learn that. But a lot of people never have that. And so in our world, we can really make a difference by just understanding the love effect.
Absolutely. I mean, love can be firm. We were just talking about this yesterday. It can be firm, but
Yes.
also you have to be understanding and kind. A lot of times we think it's okay. Like we have such a toxic society now where people can get on social media, they can get in the comments and say outlandish things. I mean, and then there's a point where you have to have thick skin. You can't be too into yourself. I was on a live interview about a month or so ago, and I was completely in a different environment and platform than obviously I normally interact in. But I was okay. You had people talking trash in the comments, and people saying all kinds of stuff. And you know what? I ended up coming back, and I had people reaching out to me and wanting to connect with me. And I mean, there's a point where I said, they need to have more peoples like myself that are in their world, because they're not there to take life seriously on some of these platforms, or they're not looking necessarily to have any like deep thoughts. They're just they're in the foolishness hour, or they're just there to talk trash or whatnot. But again, how you respond to those things also says something about yourself too. And when you talk about loving people, you have to love people past their failures, and then you have to love yourself enough too to understand there's certain environments you're not going to put yourself in, certain things that you're not going to put in your body, certain activities that you're not going to engage in no matter what. So that you brought up a tremendous it's not just a word, but it's a lifestyle. It's like so many people are so quick to say, oh, I love that, or I love this person, or whatever they can find. I love doing this, or I love going to this place. But um, you'll really see what you love if you monitor your activities and you take a step back and look at who the people you're bringing around you. Look at the people you're constantly in communication with on your phones. Look at the time you're spending on social media looking at some kind of star celebrity, and trying to get so involved in their world. Maybe you think you can get a comment their way to bother them, or you can harass them in some way that you get some attention, or you can troll them as they do. You see a lot of this, and that's the anti-fulfillment campaign. I mean, you'll never be fulfilled trying to wreck somebody else's dreams, trying to stop someone else's future, trying to, be an obstacle for anybody. And so, like, what I've learned too, again, in fighting for mental health is even when people have done things or they have caused some kind of frustration, I'm very well aware that me spending my time maybe making some phone calls to kick them out of an industry or to run their business down, I just took away time where I could have been making a life changing call. I could have been, making something happen that's going to, change history. So I keep these things always in my mind. Like, true enough, you get into the business and there's times where you do have to show some kind of, tough discipline towards some individuals that are obviously getting in the way, or you find out that there's a person that's acting as a predator to our society. Well, in those cases, yes, you do have to take the right actions, right steps. But again, overly committing mentally to those things, or to those people, or to any of these ideas that are um, negative, toxic, and hostile, you're not going to win. There's no production.
Well, again, it goes back to we are what we focus on. We're not negating the fact that these things exist, but we choose. We have an organization, we have people in place to handle it's business, it's logistics, right?
Yeah,
But we choose what we focus on, and whatever you feed, it will actually really grow. So, hurt people, healed people, heal people. And so, when you focus on creating an abundance and healing instead of the negative, right? We can come in and choose to be offended. We can choose to spend our time and go into a place of lack and retaliation, or we can understand and look at each individual as, oh my gosh, they must really be hurt. I always say, when I get all this stuff together that I'm putting in place for these nurturing retreats and stuff, I say, I'm coming for the ones who hurt me worst first, because I know that they had to be in the most excruciating pain, whether they showed it or not. Because when you study the psychology of the brain, people are born as babies, and babies, they do something. If you want to see a baby react, smile at them. They are born to please. We as
yeah,
humans are designed to please, but we're conditioned as we grow older to different things, right? So if you've never been taught love and understanding and compassion, you lack that. You lack that ability. So if I come in and no, I'm not going to put myself in danger, but there's ways that we can show the love effect and how it really does work. And we're the example. It starts with just one person. One person, can make the biggest change, because it's a domino effect. One, and then you double it. Two times two times two times two. And so I just really believe in that aspect of love and compassion, and understanding, in order, in a structured environment. No, we can't let people, do certain things, but we can focus on how to create a better situation as opposed to how to hurt a person.
absolutely. Yeah, and what we're seeing too is, with the bullying that's happening from all sectors. I mean, there's even bullying where, the youth of today and kids in schools are being presented with things that are very wicked and very devilish. They're being taught things that they really don't have any business being taught. They're being forced to interact with, different things that, I mean, they're not even just able to just live as kids anymore, without, someone trying to over sexualize them and things of this nature. And so, then you have the cyberbullying that's happening. So, I've heard of kids that have been cyberbullied. Maybe they don't have any followers, or they don't have anything cool to show on the internet, so all the other kids are making fun of them. I mean, there's so many different aspects too, where, as you mentioned, as they're growing and they're learning very toxic behaviors at such a young age, that it's going to affect our entire world, because they're going to become adults that are taking these behaviors to another level. They're going to become adults that are extremely selfish, toxic, and less engaged with things that are of substance. So I'm definitely working with the youth as much as possible as well. As much as, it could be frustrating for some people, because you feel like, oh man, maybe this youth, or this young adult is not going to hear me. Actually, I'm finding more and more that they're ready.
Oh,
Maybe not
absolutely.
all, yes, like maybe not a majority, but there's a good number of them that, they were one of us at one time, just trying to find their way, and we
They're
need to
the
have more
ones
patience.
they're the ones we want to focus on because they're growing. They're at that stage. They're a sponge. And we
Yes.
are what we feed. So if we come in and we feed them good, and we love them, and we're compassionate, and we show them by example. The problem is, so many people want to come in and tell you what to do, but if
Yeah.
you go and look at their life, they live a total opposite life. So it's like when I say to people, they say, well, how can we make a difference? We'll live by example. Just start in your home. Start
Hmm.
at home. Spend a little bit more time with your child. Hug them, tell them that you love them, spend time with your significant other. Instead of worrying about building you and all these other things, build the people around you. Start
Yeah,
by your circle and then expand out from your circle. Love those who love you. And if they don't love you, figure out what's going on around you so you can help be a voice of reason and an example, right? Because we only know what we're taught. So, how do we expect the world to change? How do we expect our youth to do different things if they're not shown? And when I say shown, yes, they can go on the internet, but they're really shown by the environment that they're in.
absolutely.
The people who are with them on a daily basis is who is forming them. And
Absolutely.
so I love what your guys are doing and I love it. I'm so excited. That's why I'm always like, tell me what you're doing. What can I do to help?
Absolutely. Well, one thing, and I'll wrap it up with this is I would love to. We will communicate on how you can come to some of our next events. Come engage and see some of the cool things we do too, because we're not looking to just talk to people about depression all day, or just help trigger their anxieties and disorders. Actually, we want to give them hope, and give them things that they can get involved in, or they could just kind of get out the house or get out of that shell, and come interact with people that can really like demonstrate a different lifestyle, or there's another way. So bringing those solutions and those alternatives is an everyday commitment. It's something we're very excited about, something that we've had a lot of success as of late, and it's going to continue. So we're more than happy to bring 411 business, to any of our events, to be a resource to your platform as well. And we really appreciate you for taking the fight for mental health and taking what we're doing for the community, and giving it another highlight on what we're doing on a daily basis.
Absolutely. And for 411 business, we would be more than happy to, help with anything as far as, interviewing people, helping bring them on, if they want to call me outside of the platform and I can help them discover their talents, and so we can feature them. And they don't have to run a company to be on here. We want to give people a voice. We want to be able to help them. And so whether they run a company or they are an employee or they're a freelance, whatever it is, we want to give them the opportunity to just be heard and be featured. So that's the biggest thing, is creating a safe space where people can be heard is very important for us. So we at 411 really appreciate you, and thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate it tremendously.
No, I couldn't think of any better platform. And obviously, you're an incredible individual. We support you. I support you, and I really appreciate everything you're doing.
All right. Thank you, dear.